The crystal chandelier cast a warm glow over the mahogany dining table as our family gathered for Christmas dinner. For 32 years, I had sat at this same table, watching my father carve the turkey with the precision of a surgeon and the authority of a king. But tonight felt different. There was electricity in the air, a tension that made my mother fidget with her pearl necklace while my brothers exchanged meaningful glances. I adjusted my simple black sweater and took another bite of mashed potatoes, savoring the familiar taste of my mother's cooking. My phone buzzed silently in my purse. I ignored it. Whatever Forbes needed could wait until after dinner. "Sarah," my father began, setting down his carving knife with a ceremonial flourish, "there's something important we need to discuss as a family." My brothers, Michael and David, straightened in their chairs. Michael's wife, Jennifer, looked eager. David's wife, Patricia, barely concealed a smirk. Their sons, Jake and Tommy, both in college, looked up from their phones with mild interest. "Of course, Dad," I said softly, reaching for my water glass. "What's on your mind?" My father cleared his throat the way he always did before making what he considered momentous announcements. "I've been working with the estate attorney finalizing my will. Your mother and I have made some decisions about the inheritance." The room fell silent except for the crackling fireplace. "The business, the properties, the investments, they'll be divided between Michael and David," my father declared, his voice carrying the weight of a judge pronouncing sentence. "They've proven themselves capable of handling such responsibility." I nodded slowly, cutting another piece of turkey. "I understand." My mother leaned forward, her tone carefully gentle. "Sarah, honey, it's not that we don't love you. It's just, you've always been different. Your little computer job, that tiny apartment downtown, you've never shown interest in real business." Michael adjusted his designer tie. "That's right, Sarah. The construction company needs someone who understands contracts, negotiations, real estate development. Jennifer and I have been working with Dad for years." David added smoothly, his arm draped around Patricia. "And the restaurant chain requires hands-on management. Vendors, staff, multiple locations. It's not really your wheelhouse." I sipped my wine, a 1998 Bordeaux that cost more than most people's monthly rent. They didn't know I'd been the one who'd quietly added it to their cellar last month. "You're absolutely right," I said calmly. "I wouldn't know the first thing about running multiple businesses." My father's expression softened, relieved. "I'm glad you understand, sweetheart. This doesn't mean we don't value you. There will be a small trust fund, enough to ensure you're comfortable. Maybe $50,000. Jennifer practically glowed. "It's really for the best, Sarah. Michael and I have plans for expansions, new locations. We're thinking of buying that new development downtown." "The one with the harbor condos?" Patricia chimed in. "David says it's a gold mine." I nearly choked on my wine. "Harborview Residences. The very project my investment firm financed and owned. The same one that generated over $30 million last quarter." "That sounds like a wonderful investment," I said evenly. Jake, my nephew, frowned. "Wait, isn't that the building where Aunt Sarah's company?" "Sarah doesn't have a company, honey," Michael interrupted quickly. "She just works for someone else's computer business." I smiled at Jake. "That's right. I just do coding for other people." My phone buzzed again, Emma's name flashing on the screen. Probably news about the European tech merger. Or the pharmaceutical acquisition. Either way, it could wait. My father raised his glass. "To family and to ensuring the business legacy continues with those best equipped to handle it." Everyone toasted. I lifted my glass half-heartedly. David smirked. "You know, Sarah, maybe this will motivate you to find a husband. Settle down. A woman your age shouldn't be living alone in a cramped apartment, working on computers." "David," my mother scolded, though she clearly agreed. "No, he's right," I said lightly. 32 is getting up there. I should probably think about my future more seriously." My phone buzzed a third time. Emma was persistent. It had to be important. Still, nothing interrupted Dad's pronouncements. Then Tommy froze mid-scroll. His eyes widened. Aunt Sarah." "Yes, sweetheart. I just got a news alert. Forbes published their updated billionaire list." The table chatter continued, but I noticed his pale face. "That's nice, honey," Jennifer said absently. Tommy swallowed. "There's someone on this list with your name." The room quieted. "What do you mean?" my mother asked. Tommy held up his phone, his hand trembling. Sarah Thompson. Number 47. Net worth, $3.8 billion. The room went silent. David laughed nervously. That's obviously a different Sarah Thompson. Common name. But Tommy's eyes were locked on me. The article says she's the founder and CEO of Quantum Dynamics. Just acquired MedTech Industries. 32 years old. From our city. He glanced between me and the photo. And she looks exactly like Aunt Sarah. Every fork froze midair. Every glass hung suspended. My father's face drained of color. That's impossible. I cut another bite of turkey. Is it? Michael grabbed Tommy's phone, his hands shaking. Jennifer peered over his shoulder and gasped. The photo, it's definitely her. My mother stared at me as if I were a stranger. Sarah, is this some kind of joke? I calmly set down my fork and dabbed my lips with a napkin. What would you like to know? David snatched the phone, reading frantically. It says Quantum Dynamics was founded 8 years ago in a small downtown apartment, with just a laptop and a few thousand in savings. My apartment, I said simply. The room erupted. This can't be real, my father stammered. You work for someone else. You've never mentioned owning a company. You never asked. Michael kept scrolling, his face pale. Sarah, there are dozens of articles. Forbes, Fortune, Wall Street Journal. All about you. Patricia leaned closer, her voice hushed. It says Quantum Dynamics revolutionized AI in healthcare, built the most advanced diagnostic systems in the world, and just acquired 3 major pharmaceutical companies. I nodded. That sounds right. My father leaned forward, his commanding presence broken. Why didn't you tell us? When would I have told you? At last year's Christmas dinner, when David explained what real business is. Or at Michael's birthday, when Jennifer suggested I find a man to take care of me because clearly I couldn't take care of myself. Silence fell again, heavy and suffocating. Finally, Tommy whispered, awe in his voice. Aunt Sarah. It says here you donated $50 million to children's hospitals last year. And you're building a new cancer research center. The Morrison Center. I confirmed, it'll be finished next spring. My mother's pearl necklace was getting a workout now as she clutched at it. But you live in that tiny apartment. You drive that old Honda. I like my apartment. It's where I built the company. And the Honda runs fine. Michael set the phone down with shaking hands. Sarah, if this is true, if you're really worth almost $4 billion, then what? I asked gently. The question hung in the air like smoke. My father, who had just spent the last hour explaining why I wasn't worthy of inheriting his mid-size construction company and his chain of family restaurants, was now staring at someone whose personal wealth exceeded his empire by a factor of 1,000. David cleared his throat. I mean, we had no way of knowing. Didn't you? I countered. Did you ever wonder how I could afford to live downtown without roommates, on what you assumed was a secretary's salary? Did you question why I never seemed stressed about money? Why I never asked the family for help? Jennifer's face flushed red. You let us think you were struggling. I never said I was struggling. You assumed I was, because I don't drive a luxury car or wear designer clothes to family dinners. My father was scrolling on his own phone now. His voice cracked. Sarah, there's an article here. Says Quantum Dynamics just acquired Thompson Industries. The room went still. Thompson Industries? My mother whispered. I took a slow sip of wine. A small construction and restaurant group. I thought the name was fitting. Michael's face went white. You bought Dad's companies? Technically, my investment firm bought them. You were having cash flow problems. Needed capital for expansion. I provided it. My father's voice was barely a whisper. You've been our silent partner for 6 months? Silent investor, I corrected. I prefer to stay in the background. David was frantically scrolling through more headlines. Sarah, there are photos of you here. At charity galas. Business summits. Meeting with world leaders. How did we never see any of this? I use my middle name professionally. Sarah Elizabeth Thompson. And I don't attend local social events. Patricia looked bewildered. But why didn't you ever say anything? Why let us think? Think what? That I was a failure? That I needed your guidance and support? That I was the family disappointment? The words landed like blows around the table. Jake, my nephew, finally spoke, his tone reverent. Aunt Sarah, this says you're one of the youngest self-made billionaires in history. That you built your company while working full-time jobs to support yourself through college. I worked at a coffee shop. Did freelance coding, I confirmed. My mother was crying now, whether from shock, embarrassment, or something else I couldn't tell. Sarah, honey, we had no idea. I know. My father set down his phone with trembling hands. The inheritance discussion was perfectly reasonable. You're dividing your assets between the children you believe are best equipped to handle them, I finished. That makes sense. Michael looked sick. But we just told you that you're not getting anything, that you don't deserve anything. You explained your reasoning. And I agreed with it. I wouldn't know how to run a construction company or a restaurant chain. But you already own them, David blurted weakly. Through a management company. I write checks. Attend quarterly board meetings. That's very different from day-to-day operations. The carefully prepared Christmas dinner lay forgotten. The table had gone cold. Jennifer's voice was small. Sarah, when we were talking about buying those condos downtown, Harborview Residences. Yes. I heard. Do you own them? Yes. I developed them. Meridian Development Group is another one of my companies. The silence that followed was deafening. Tommy broke it by reading from yet another article. It says here you're planning to revolutionize urban development with sustainable, affordable housing projects. And you've already broken ground on 4 new sites. 5, I corrected. The 5th was approved yesterday. My father looked around the table, then back at me. His voice shook. Sarah, I owe you an apology. For what? For everything. For underestimating you. For dismissing your work. For assuming. Dad, I said gently. You don't owe me anything. You made decisions based on the information you had. I never corrected your assumptions. Michael leaned forward desperately. But why? Why didn't you tell us? I considered the question while finishing my wine. Honestly, because I liked having one place where I could just be Sarah. Where I wasn't the CEO or the billionaire. Where I was just your daughter, your sister, your aunt. Where people loved me for who I was, not for what I'd accomplished. The words hit the table like a hammer. Patricia whispered, almost inaudible. But we don't. Love me? I asked softly. I know. That's been clear for a while. My mother was sobbing openly now. That's not true, Sarah. We love you so much. You love the idea of me. The daughter who needs guidance. The one you can feel superior to. The one who makes you feel better about your own children's successes. But you don't love the real me. David shook his head frantically. That's not fair. You hid who you really are. I hid what I do for a living. Who I am hasn't changed. I'm still the sister who helped you study for your business degree, David. The one who taught Michael how to code when he thought about switching careers. The one who babysat your kids. Who remembered every birthday. Who never missed a family event. The truth settled over the table like a heavy blanket. My phone buzzed again. This time I pulled it out. Emma's message flashed across the screen. European merger approved. Need your signature by midnight for morning announcement. Also, pharmaceutical acquisition complete. $2.3 billion transfer confirmed. I typed back quickly. Send documents to my apartment. I'll sign tonight. When I looked up, every pair of eyes was locked on me. Work. The truth at the table. My father asked hesitantly, work? Just closing a couple of acquisitions, I replied. Nothing that can't wait until after dessert. Jennifer looked stunned. A couple of acquisitions? You say it like you're buying groceries. Different scale, same principle, I said with a small smile. Tommy was still glued to his phone, reading articles with fascination. Aunt Sarah, this interview from last year. You said your biggest regret was not spending more time with family. But we never made time for you. You made time, I corrected gently, for the version of me you were comfortable with. My father stood abruptly, pacing the floor. Sarah, the things we said tonight, the way we talked about your future, your life choices, they were based on our understanding of your situation. I don't blame you for that. But we do, Michael said quietly. We blame ourselves. I looked around the table, really looked at them for the first time in years. My father. the man who had built a successful business from nothing, but had never once asked me about mine. My mother, who had worried about my financial security while I quietly built a fortune. My brothers, who had pitied my modest lifestyle while I was revolutionizing entire industries. I have a proposition, I said finally. Everyone leaned forward. We finish dinner. We have dessert. We exchange gifts like we always do. And then we start over. Start over, my mother asked softly. You learn who I really am. And I learn who you really are, when you're not trying to take care of your poor, struggling daughter. My father sank back into his chair. His voice was broken. Sarah, I don't know how do we even begin to make this right? You don't need to make anything right. You need to decide if you want a relationship with me, the real me, or if you prefer the version you thought you knew. The silence that followed was long and heavy. Finally, Jake cleared his throat. Aunt Sarah. Yes. Can I ask you about the AI stuff? I'm majoring in computer science and the diagnostic systems you developed. They're revolutionary. I smiled, the first genuine smile I'd worn all evening. I'd love to talk about that with you. And maybe, Tommy added shyly, you could tell us about the Cancer Research Center? I'm thinking about pre-med and what you're doing sounds incredible. Absolutely. My father looked at me then with something I had rarely seen in his eyes before, respect. Sarah, would you be willing to tell us about your work? Really tell us. Are you sure? Might take a while. 8 years of building a company is a lot of ground to cover. We have time, my mother said quickly. All the time in the world. I nodded slowly. Then let's finish this excellent dinner first. And Dad? Yes. That inheritance discussion. I meant what I said. Michael and David should get the businesses. They know them, they understand them, they've worked in them. That's exactly how it should be. David looked confused. But you could buy and sell Dad's companies 100 times over. Exactly. Which is why I don't need them. You do. The inheritance should go to the people who will value it most. My father's eyes filled with tears. Sarah. Dad, you built something wonderful. You employed people. You provided for your family. You created value in the world. I'm proud to be your daughter. Even after tonight? After what we said. Especially after tonight, I said softly. Because now we can finally be honest with each other. I picked up my fork and cut another piece of turkey. Now, who wants to hear about the time I accidentally revolutionized medical diagnostics while trying to build a better scheduling app? And for the first time in years my family listened, really listened, to what I had to say. The Forbes list had changed everything and nothing. I was still Sarah Thompson, the girl who loved her family despite their flaws. But now finally they had the chance to love me back. All of me. The conversation carried on well past midnight, filled with questions, laughter, tears, and the tentative first steps toward something we'd never had before. A relationship built on truth. Later, as I drove home to my small downtown apartment in my reliable old Honda, I smiled to myself. Tomorrow I would wake up and continue changing the world. But tonight I had simply enjoyed being part of a family that finally knew who I really was. And that, I thought as I pulled into my parking space, was worth more than any Forbes ranking could ever measure.